All right, in this video series, we are going to be covering SoundOff Central Lightbar and how you can use it to program and customize your light bars. So we're going to break this into like a three-part video series. The first one, with the one we're talking about right now, it's just going to primarily be like navigation of the software. We're going to go through all the different icons and what each section of the software is. The second video will cover how to program light bars, and that could be either from scratch or doing a module detection and detecting what's actually connected. And we'll also be covering how to map the different functions of the light bar in that video. And then in the third video, we're going to cover things like some special functions like matrices and speed sense. We'll also be covering the control simulator and how to do firmware updates. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to start by clicking Create New File. All right, so right now we are looking at the screen as it boots up. Now across the top, we've got a few different icons. We've got File Open. We have Save As. So there is no actual save button, but there's a Save As button. So every time it's going to ask you to save as, basically it's prompting you for revisions. But if you want to save over the old one, just once it asks you what file, just click on your old file, hit enter, and it's going to save it to that. You also have the ability to do a new file. The next icon is Upload. So we're uploading from what you see on the screen to the breakout box. And the following icon is the other way around. It's downloads, from the breakout box to what we see on the screen. Next to that, we have the USB connection icon. It's going to basically say what you're connected to. And in my case, I'm actually connected to a universal breakout box. Over to the right, if you have any special messages, it's going to let you know. So like in our case, we've got a firmware update available. And then to the very right of that, there's that little icon with the clock and a magnifying glass. If we click on that, that's kind of like a history of everything that's gone on during this session. So if you have any kind of errors or warnings that pop up, they're going to be in here. Now moving along on the left side of the screen, we've got the navigation bar. So the navigation bar is broken into 6 icons, and each one of these icons has a name to it. So like we're looking at setup, we have I/O mapping or input-output mapping, matrices, the control simulator, firmware update and diagnostics. And then at the bottom here, we have help and support. And if you ever forget what any of these are, you can just click the little triple hamburger here and they pop out, kind of give you an idea what the name is. All right, so next we're going to concentrate on this left section of the screen. So where it says Lightbar type, and currently it's got mPower traffic controller detected. This dropdown basically allows you to select what type of light bar you're working with, and it's going to automatically detect your light bar type for you the moment you plug your breakout box in. But in the case of the universal breakout box, you might have to tell it what type you want it to be, especially if it's not connected to a light bar. Like if I want to program an mPower light bar from scratch, I need to make sure that I select mPower, build out my program, and then hit upload, and it will upload it. And from that point forward, the universal breakout box will now let you know that it is a universal breakout box. Now we have a toggle here for some of the light bars. You have a toggle and other ones you don't, to use it as a universal breakout box. So like the mPower can be connected to a universal breakout box, or you can connect it to one of the legacy type breakout boxes. That's going to be determined by this checkbox here. Just below that, we have a checkbox for Blueprint 3 compatibility mode. So if you're using this a universal breakout box and programming it through this software, and you're going to use it with Blueprint 3, you need to make sure that this is toggled to on. If you're using it with SoundOff Central Blueprint, you don't need to worry about this at all. It's gonna handle that for you. The next one down is the system input node. This is another one that was designed for Blueprint 3. So if you're using Blueprint 3, you have to manually toggle this on the breakout box that is going to be part of the system input node, or going to become the system input node. And usually you're only going to do that on one breakout box. Actually, you're always only going to do it on one breakout box. But in SoundOff Central Blueprint, you don't have to do this. This is all handled behind the scenes. There's no need to go in and program your breakout box, click on this, tell it it's the input node for the system. Now, when we do check this on, you're going to get this warning up here, and it's basically saying, hey, it's going to reset all the inputs to have no mappings to them. Are you sure you want to continue? You would click yes, and it's going to clear all the input mapping out. Now I'm going to go ahead and click no, just so we can go in and talk about different areas of the application. All right, so the next two options are include discrete wire inputs and include serial controls. Now, what these do is they basically show or hide different sections of the application when we get into I/O mapping. So I'm going to go over to I/O mapping for a second. And right now we've only got these 5 inputs available to do any kind of mapping to. Let's go back over here and toggle the serial controls on. So this is for when you have a light bar that you're plugging in directly to a 400 series siren control panel. And when you're doing that, it will basically allow you to program what each button does on the siren. So when you have siren button 1 on, we're going to map it to do whatever it's going to do. When you have button 2 on, we're going to have that do whatever you want it to do. That's what that toggle does. It turns those on. So if I turn it back off, they're gone. Now, the discrete wire inputs, that's the harness, the 24-pin harness that's coming off of the side of the breakout box. When you toggle this is basically saying, all your different wires, and you're going to program them to do, different things. So if we go back and look at the I/O mapping here, now we've got all the wires shown. And you can have all of that shown. So if you wanted to have them both on, you just go ahead and click right here, toggle them both on, go back over to mapping. And if we scroll down, you're going to see we have all the different inputs now. Moving along for navigation, we have the matrix setup screen. So at the bottom of the list, we have 2 special inputs. These are matrices. They are basically conditional inputs where you can say, hey, my slide switch is on, and maybe I've got the blue-white wire energized because the vehicle's in park, and you can now program it to do something different. This is the mapping portion of it, but we still need to define what matrix 1 does when it's active. So we can go to this screen right here, and we can basically set all that up and get it to work the way we want it to. Again, we're going to cover that in the 3rd video. Continuing along, we have the control simulator. We'll cover this again in that 3rd video, but this allows you to basically be connected via a USB cable to the breakout box with your computer, and you can start turning things on and off and kind of testing out your functions. Then we have our firmware and diagnostics screen. So we have all the firmware update information right here. We'll cover how that process works. And then we finally go into this last section, the help and support section. So help and support, it's broken down into 2 sections. We have the numbers for tech support, and we also have the ability to submit feedback right to the developers of the software. So if you have an idea that you want to possibly see implemented, click on that submit feedback. If it's a technical support question, go ahead and click on the message tech support. Now, these buttons here are going to open up if you have Outlook or something like that, they're going to open up Outlook and automatically have an email ready to go for you. All you have to do is start typing. But if you're not using Outlook and you're using something like Gmail or Hotmail or any kind of a web email access, I've got the emails at the bottom of the screen. So you can just, copy them from there and send your feedback or your message to tech support that way. In the middle of the screen, we have a change log. So this shows all the things that were changed from one version of the software to the next. And then we have the end user license agreement if you ever want to go back and review that. Okay, so with that, we're going to go and end this episode, and in the next episode, we're going to cover how to set up your light bar, how to actually, build it out. So we'll start with that.